I know the theme for this season is borrowed from Jeremiah 26, verse 13a, and it says, now reform your ways and your actions and obey the Lord. So that's where we're going to be able to look at the discussion. We have had a very good reading on the parable of the talents, and I think all of us are well versed with that parable and the issues around there. But your minister gave me a very good assignment. He asked me to talk about financial prudence. Financial prudence. And so, Bwana Minister, when I get things that sometimes I'm not very clear, I always ask my uncle. And I want to invite everybody listening to make my uncle your uncle. He's called Google. Do you have an uncle called Google like me? Yeah, he tends to tell me the things that I don't know. So when I asked him, what does it mean financial? He told me this is something that relates to finance. It is something monetary. It's about money matters. It's about management of money, investing, borrowing, lending, budgeting, saving, planning, and such like things. And I said, oh, now I understand. But what is prudence? And my uncle said, oh, that's old French from the 14th century. And they actually borrowed it from Latin, and the actual word is prudentia. It actually says, seeing ahead, being disciplined and making decisions based on logic, being very shrewd, having the skill and judgment for the good use of resources, and being careful when we are making decisions, especially in money matters. So now, Mr. Our Reverend, I think I'm more informed what you wanted us to discuss. And so I said, what's a possible source of understanding financial prudence? And I have realized over the days that there are many sources where you can actually be able to tap into the wisdom of others. You can actually read, you can listen, you can be present. And I'm happy with those who are present. I'm happy with those who are listening, because that way we can run. And I found the answer for this subject is very, very well anchored in Genesis 1:1. And what does it say? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And so we are actually learning from the Bible that God owns everything because he created it. And I think that's important as we start the discussion. We are just but stewards. And when you are a steward, what you are managing doesn't belong to others. When you go to the bank and you give the teller your money, it is not their money. And they can never dream that that is their money. When you go to the stock market and you give the portfolio manager your money to buy shares for you, they actually can be controlling a lot of money, but it is not theirs. So what God has given us, we are just but stewards. And I looked for an ideal steward we can learn from, and I saw Joseph, the son of Jacob. I'm sure most of us know Joseph. And there are many Josephs, so I want to be distinct which ones. Maybe this is why my mother actually chose that name for my baptism. This Joseph of Cyrene, this Joseph of Arimathea, but I'm talking about Joseph, the son of Jacob. You know, the brother of Benjamin, the one who was sold to be a slave, the one whose Potiphar's wife had an eye on. You remember that guy? And he actually became the prime minister in Egypt. That's the one I'm saying. That, for me, is a very good example of a steward, because he actually owned nothing in Egypt. When he was in Potiphar's house, he was a slave. And so when you are a steward, you can actually use what you have, but it is not yours. So you have actually got to know what your limits are, because stewardship is a pack you've been given. You can, yes, make use of that pack, but you know what is not yours. Like Joseph knew very clearly that Potiphar's wife was not part of his business. So he's a very good example of a steward. And when I'm thinking about stewardship, and I look at the parable we have read, the parable of the talents, I actually just realized one thing. We are sojourners. We are on a journey. We are traveling. We are in a camp. And when you find yourself in a camp, you know it's a temporary place. So as we talk about resources, let's know we are campers. We're in a temporary space. We will move when the time comes. All we need to do is to know camp craft. What do you do while you're at the camp? What are the things you do at the camp? And if we actually look at Psalms 139:16, says very well, God knew our days before we were formed in our mother's womb. That's a very good way to start. That actually God knows how long we are going to be in this camp. And so while we're in this camp, he has taught us what we are going to do. And he has made us a steward of very many things. And one of the things we are steward for is time. Gives us 24 hours every day. It's us to decide what to do with the 24 hours. And that can make a whole big difference. And we were actually told that the one who had more and gave back more was actually given more. That who had little and gave back nothing ended up with nothing. And that's the truth of time. Those who use their time well actually can be able to make more. We have our body, the temple of the Lord. That is a resource for us to steward. We have our heart, and the things we are going to allow to come into our heart. That's up to us to be good stewards. We have talents, and I know all of us have different talents. And all these talents, we have to be good stewards. We are given a beautiful environment. And this environment, you people I should congratulate you. Because I've seen is a clean environment. You take care of everything. We have to be stewards. We have professions. Some of us are in business. Some of us are working for government, working for corporate. Wherever you're working, that's a talent you've been given that you become a steward of. We have finances. We have our investments. And also, more importantly, we have a reward from God, our children. And so when we are looking at financial prudence, I want to leave out all those other areas so that we can just focus on our money. And I don't know what money is to you. If somebody asks you, if you're 10-year-old, I think those are the best innocent people to ask you a question. They ask, Mommy, what is money? Or Daddy, what's money? How would you respond? Now, I know you're not in a class. And I'm used to being in a conference and a class where people respond. But I have had many answers, and I don't know whether yours would fall in any of this. I've had a lot of people who say what they were taught in the economics class. Money is a commodity for exchange, and that's very true. I've had people who say money is a legal tender. That's true. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the government. That's why they asked you to surrender 1,000 shillings, and you just did that. You surrender that because it belongs to them. But money is very many other things. It's a resource that we can actually use. It is an enabler that can enable us to do the things that God has given us responsibility. Money is a catalyst. It can get things to be done faster. If you want to go to town and we want to go there faster, maybe we are better off not using public transport, but maybe asking for Uber so that we get there fast. Money is a standard of measure. This is how we measure things in the market. When they put in oranges or bananas, or you take your cow or you take your car to the market, they give you a value, and we call it a price, and that is money. So money is a tool that we can actually be able to use for many things, for protecting ourselves. And that's why it is there to help us to provide our Medicare, the roof on which we live. But money is also power, and there are people who actually use it excessively as power. But I want to take money as a profession, what we call the currency of life. That money actually helps us to provide the requirements that we have. And why money has proved to be difficult for a lot of people is because money has 4 very hidden characteristics. And characteristic number 1 of money is that money loves movement. I don't know whether you've ever realized how money loves moving. You put 1,000 shillings in the pocket, and you take a trip to town, and that's the only day you meet your friends so that you can buy them coffee, so that money moves from you to the owner of the restaurant. And the more money you have, the more it likely seems to move. But there's a pattern of how money moves. Money likes congregating together. So if you have little, your little goes to the people who have more. And trust me, this is true. This is how we live as a society. I'm not sure where you get the water here from, but I suspect you get water from the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. And you actually pay your water here in terms of units. A unit is 1,000 liters. Across the university on the other side, we used to have a nice village called KM. I'm not sure whether it's still there. But I know at that time, they never had water. So they would buy it in jerry cans. So a jerry can of 20 liters for 20 shillings. Effectively, what that means is they are buying 1 liter at 1 shilling. while you people here are buying 1 liter at 10 cents. You're buying water 10 times cheaper than the other people. I don't know if you've ever thought about that. And economists have a nice word for that. It is called poverty tax. And we've just read in the Bible about the poverty tax. Did you see? The one who had the little they had was taken away. That is what is called the poverty tax. So when we are looking at financial prudence, we always say, look for ways or means of not paying poverty tax. So try to have more so that you can actually avoid the poverty tax. So that is one thing you need to understand about money movement and how it likes gravitating where there's more. The other good thing about money, surprisingly, is that it is very, very personal. Very personal. It's very easy for me to meet you at the corridor and ask you your name. And you will actually not give me one. You're likely to give me 3. I'll ask you where you live, and you'll actually divine the street, the avenue, and the house number. But what would happen if I asked you of your bank balance? What would happen? Even if you don't speak, you will sweat. And this is true. This is how we have learned about money. I always say to young people and old people who are married, did you ever discuss money during courtship? Do you remember him telling you he had a loan at Equity? Did you tell him you had a loan at the Circle? By the way, do you remember telling him, nilikuwa nimefuliza? It is so personal that even when people have money problems, they actually find it difficult to look for solutions. That's what we see. Because a lot of times in our practice, especially people who are deep in debt, they come when things are very, very desperate. When we are not feeling well, we straight go to the doctor. I know when we have spiritual concerns, we come to the minister. But when we have money issues, because of the personal nature, we keep it to ourselves. Now, the other characteristics that money is physical. You can see it. You can tell who has it and who doesn't have it easily by looking around. How do they dress? Where do they send their children to school? Where do they stay? What car are they driving? All those things. And that's why as a society we have a serious problem. Because we are in the competition to look great, to look good. And as a result, a lot of us have fallen very deep in debt because we want to fake it until we make it. And in faking it, before we make it, we fall to some very, very great force in town. It is called OPO, other people's opinion. Because it counts, I'll send my children to the school where I can't even afford to pay fee. And that becomes a big problem. I'll buy a car, KDC, because everybody else has left KA and KB. And as a result of that, we have a lot of people who are deep and mired in debt. So we need to understand that physical nature of money. And the last thing I want to say is that money is very, very emotional. If you think about it, when you have some good money, there must be nice emotions that you have. I don't know what words can describe the emotions that you experience. Excited? Do you feel joyful? Do you feel generous? Do you feel happy? Now, if you reverse the coin, when we actually don't have money, and Nixon teaches me some sheng sometimes, he says, ukiwa umesota. Now, what are the feelings you have when you umesota? Fear, anxiety, sometimes aggression. Sometimes we actually stressed, and all those things. That's the emotional thing about money. And I'll talk about that because what I know from what observation and studies that I've done is that people don't look for money just for the sake of it. People are after the feelings that they get out of the money, the emotions that it creates. The feeling of choice. I can choose. When I hit the highway here, I can choose where to go because I have a choice. I can choose what to wear. I can choose where to send my children to school. That's sort of why we find we're looking out for money. We actually, the feeling of having the choice that if they ask for a donation in church, I can actually afford to give the donation. And if they ask for a second donation, I can actually be able to be there. The ability to show love to those who are close to me. I can send my children to the school where they want to go. I can take my spouse out. I can help people. That is part of the reason why we work for this money. The freedom it gives us from want, because we always want to have freedom from want. The security that I can actually buy my insurance so that now, if there are issues and people clean out my house, somebody is going to be able to help me out with that. I can be able to buy medical insurance so that if somebody gets unwell, they can get that protection. So we are looking at that feeling of empowerment, the feeling of aliveness. You feel alive. And that's why a lot of people are actually doing a lot of things. But on the other side, we need to appreciate that those who actually have studied buyer behavior, they studied consumer psychology. Now they know how to lay the traps so that they can catch us out of those emotions. Look at the adverts that we get. Look at the messages you get on your phone from the mobile lenders. This is around just before payday for a lot of people, and they will actually say, this is the week when everybody gets a salary advance. And so they actually want you to feel the emotion to borrow. If you go to the shopping malls, and I know we go to the shopping malls, and if you've been in the city long enough as the people who actually knew this place before this estate was here, you actually remember how we used to go and shop in a small duka with a small window, and you actually ask for bread, and they give you bread, and you go home. And they realize you go home with all the money. And so what did they do? They opened that space to self-selection. So they can now put bread and sugar and chilies because they understand how the mind works, so that you can pick one and the other. And after that has worked very well, they've only gone out and opened a supermarket. Why a supermarket? Because a supermarket is a very good place. Make it spacious. Let the family come together, all of the people in the family, because now they have more eyes to see and more fingers to pick. And they've actually made a big trolley so that you can place your child on top of the trolley so that they not bother you. And there's a steering wheel for that. Your son can stay there for 4 hours. The longer you stay, the more you buy. And they've actually extended that now into shopping malls. As you know, now in the cities, shopping malls. So it is one huge supermarket at the base with all the supporting facilities. You can take a lot of time to shop there. And once you're done your shopping, obviously your legs are so tired. And at the corner, there's a nice coffee shop. And the coffee is very well priced. Can you see the traps? And the food court is not on that floor. The food court is upstairs. Why? Because they want your children who don't take coffee to go to the food court without you. Because when children go to a place for the first time alone, they look at the most exotic and the most expensive stuff. Without mommy and daddy, they put an order. And when you show up to come and see what your children have been doing, when you see the bill, wow. Now you're not sure whether to love them more or to hate them more. And before you actually say anything, they actually remind you they want tokens because they are games upstairs. And now when you're finished paying this bill, you're so unhappy with them, you don't want to see them anymore. But before you look at seeing them across, there's a shop where everything is advertised very brilliantly with 75% off. The dress you've always been dreaming about, the suit you've always been dreaming about. So do you go to the children or do you enter that shop? You enter that shop. And eventually when you are coming out, your car has been doing some good work for you in the parking lot. That's how they are doing. And now they found us very well, because the biggest subject on the face of the earth is called data science. They want you to buy on the phone. Because when you buy on the phone, they will collect data on you. Remember when you are signing in for your phone, you gave them the age. They know where you live. They actually have an idea where you are because they can almost see that in the bank. So they can craft everything for you so that when you show up in the shopping space, it looks like they knew you before you came. So if you're out of money, they have no problem. They brought all the ATMs in the shopping mall. And if you don't have the money, no problem. They will lend it to you. Do we have a chance of keeping our money, or has somebody else conspired? And I know some of you are in that business, and I'm not saying it's evil. That's the way of life. So I wanted you to understand, when I'm saying it is emotional, this is what I'm looking at. But I want to caution here that money can be an illusion. And there are just that many people who have fallen into that illusion. The gradius of looking for more and not getting enough. And we have that big disease in our country. People are insatiable. They are looking for more all the time. And let me declare this morning that money has a lot of limitations. And you'll agree with me, if you have an empty soul, money will never fill that empty soul. And God created us super. We have a hole, each one of us, that cannot be satisfied by anything else other than God himself. And if we try to satisfy ourselves with money, we lose our life. Money cannot heal a broken heart. 3 weeks back, one of the richest couples on the globe, they actually divorced. You know about Bill Gates and Melinda. With all the money you can talk about, money could not fix their differences. So it cannot heal a broken heart. Don't allow somebody to break your heart. You can't use money to mend it. Money cannot buy happiness. We must be agreeable. People try, it cannot. And we actually know, even on a sad note, that money does not heal terminal illness. Yes, you can provide all the Medicare, but it cannot do the healing. So we must be cautious even as we look out for money. And I see people now wondering, so where are we going now? Let me ask a good question. Is money evil? Do I hear yes or do I hear no? Okay, Paul has a very good answer for us here. He was writing to his mentee Timothy, 1 Timothy 6:10. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evils. Not money, the love of money. Not money, the love of money. If I showed you 1,000 shillings note, you can never show me where the devil is seated, because he's not there. We can actually use money for great and good things on the face of the earth. So it is through this craving that we have that we actually wander away from the faith. When you have that craving, we wander away from the faith, and we actually find ourselves with very many pangs that keep bothering us a lot. And you know, Solomon was on this subject. And the wisdom is very well recorded in Ecclesiastes. And if you go to chapter 10 and verse 19, this is what it has to say. A feast is made for laughter. And actually, that's why we make parties, so that we can enjoy. Wine makes life merry, but money is the answer for everything. That's Solomon. So I think we obviously now getting to a point where we know it's not evil, and we are not going to have all those problems. And God has demonstrated to us that we actually have no business getting poor. And there's substantial evidence. And I look at the fathers of our faith, the patriarchs. Was Abraham a poor guy? Do you remember that he had so many flocks that him and his cousin Lot had to agree who is going to move away to where? He was that tremendously rich person. What about his son Isaac? Very rich. And Jacob, even after he spent 14 days at his uncle's place, doing all kinds of things to get 2 beautiful girls, he was a very, very rich man. If you actually you took time and you studied the Bible and you look at the story of Lot, after restoration, and they've said how many bullocks and donkeys and cows he had, and we've done this exercise with a group of people. If he was a Kenyan today, he would be valued something between 10 billion and 15 billion shillings. Is that a poor person? I doubt. King David? King Solomon? Are we looking at Paul, the missionary, and all the journeys he did, and all the shipwrecks he had, and he still continued the journey? And we can go on. We can look even at people who supported the mission, people like Phoebe, who supported a lot of mission. And so we should be contented that God does not want us to actually stay in poverty. He has drawn for us a path to which we can keep. And if we keep to that path, we will actually have life, and we will actually enjoy the life. And that's why God has put us in this camp, and we have a journey, and we can call it the journey of life, from birth to death on the other side. And there are many steps in there between. And so since it's a journey, like every other journey, what we always say, when you're on a journey, 3 things. 1, don't forget your destination. When you started, where were we going? And we've actually said it very well, including in our creed, that we believe in everlasting life. So even while on this journey, let's not forget everlasting life, the afterlife. The other thing, don't lose yourself in the journey. Always remember yourself in this journey. We are Christians, followers of Christ, and we have a prescription on how to follow Christ, and it is well captured in the Bible. So where we lack to understand, we go back to the prescription. That's our basic constitution, and we check out what does it do so that we don't do things unconstitutional. The last thing I want to say is we learn along the way. We learn along the way. And I know you people drive on our roads. If you're driving from here and say you're going to where? Let me pick Ngari, for example. And you actually stop somewhere and you find when you want to buy from hawkers, they flood your car. Next time when you go to another shopping center, you do not want to buy from them because you don't want them to flood your car. You learned the lesson. When we are in the campaign season, and I'm sure most of you will have driven to areas that you don't know, and people just show up and they tell you, kura ni yako, even before they know who you are. And now you learn. When you see them come, you exactly know what they are going to tell you. So you learn along the way. And so when we come into this journey, we want to say, when we are going through the journey of life, we will deal with money issues all through this journey. And I want you to see this journey as a building, and every decade in life like a floor. So if you take people below 10 to be ground floor, and people between 10 and 19 to be first floor, because there's a 1 in their ears, isn't it? And so now you know the 20s are in the second floor. Then can you identify what floor you're on? Yes, I'm on 5th floor myself. And I thank God. And I know we can go up to what floor? Look at your genealogy. How old have people been living in your line? I always say, in my patriarchal side, in my father's side, I think they've been endowed with longevity. My maternal grandmother lived to be 107. One of our daughters, 103. Is there a chance in life that I can be a century? These guys need to get worried, eh? That I'll be here very long, isn't it? So you can look at that. That will give you an idea. And the beauty, as we're going to see, the more you go up the floors, the far you can see. Unless your house is built on the floor, on the lower ground. If you're on 4th floor, you can see better than the person on 2nd floor. That's true. Yes. And that's why we actually learn as we go on so that we have better lessons. Because this journey will travel it in 3 distinct phases. The first phase of our life is called childhood. When you actually don't have money, all you do is you can play and you have all the time and all the energy. Issues about money is for working adults and not yours. And you continue that journey until you're able to break from that and you can pay your bills. And that's the second phase. It's called the working life. And I can see a lot of people here are in that second phase when we work. But we get to a third phase. And that phase is when the body itself says, thank you very much. I've served you very well. Please serve me now. That's what we call retirement. And please don't confuse retirement to be when you're 50 and your employer writes for you that nice letter they have a tendency to write. Reference, tired. And how do you read it? Retired. No, you're not tired at 50 or 60 or 65. You're still energetic. You've got a lot of things you can do. That's called pre-retirement. You've just been transferred from one place into another place. So we're looking at retirement being the phase when we can actually, even if you owned the company, and you're actually given the report to read, and you try to put it there, you can't see it. You try here, you can't see it. You know, even if you're HR director, you have to fire yourself and go. Or sometimes that's not the issue. It is the hand. This is how you sign. And every time you try to sign, those things happen in life. So you can't sign. Signatures will be differing, even if there's money in the bank. That's part of life when we need to relax. That's the time we call retirement. So we want to look at this because there are specific money issues at every stage. And if something is not done at the right stage, you will find it waiting for you ahead. So let's look at the basics for all the ages. Whichever age you are, number one, we are all certified consumers. We are all certified consumers. What am I saying? We will need food to eat. We need clothing. We need health care. we'll need movement, we'll need relaxation, we'll need shelter at whatever stage. So we all come into this world with a mark, certified consumer, and we never stop consuming. The only thing, the consumption is somehow age-dependent. At different ages, we consume something more than others. When children are young, they have a tendency to get unwell mostly. And people with young children, issues about getting a fever, getting a cold, having diarrhea. That's common for children than for adults. When they grow up to become teenagers, they actually eat more. And I know parents complain a lot, mkate mzima mtu moja. But that's the stage where they are. Now they're not getting sick, now they have to eat. Okay? And as you come into your working life, now you don't even eat. We are slimming, diet and everything. And I think part of the things we do now is entertainment. Chama, mkutano ya nini. That's what we are doing. That's where the money is going. When we become seniors, now we will get to that age when it is not all those things, it is old age issues that we have to deal with. We are selective. You don't eat everything. And I know that we have my doctor friends here, and they have this nice habit of prescribing what you should not eat, forgetting that when you didn't have the money, you could not afford it. Now, when you can afford it, they prescribe, you can't eat it. And so we are facing old age issues at that time. And the good thing is, all these activities we are talking about have to be financed, and they are normally financed by the working adult. That's why during the working years, we had better listen to the message. If you don't work, don't eat. We have to work. So we actually have to know that this journey has a lot of plagues that we're going to find. There are a lot of things that are going to interrupt us. We have things that are going to interrupt our income. We have unemployment. We've seen what COVID has done. We sometimes have accidents. We have disability. We have old age. And sometimes, unfortunately, people live and they die. So we have to be aware about all those things. And that is why it is always important to think about those consequences. And we actually have to do a few things, investments, so that we have alternative sources of income when we are not able to generate income. We have to think about insurances where it is necessary. One of the things that we have found critical more so now when there's COVID, and we are recommending to families, is to have something we call a contingency fund. A contingency fund is an emergency fund. We call it an opportunity fund. As part of how you structure your investments, you have money you can get for that bad night. And the bad night even happens in the day. And it happens two ways. Financial emergencies show up anytime. You've actually set up here, you're going to town, your car has behaved very well all the time, and you just hit the bridge at Githurai, bam, and it refuses to go anywhere. How do you get it out of there? Urgently towing, mechanic, it's going to cost money. People have been very well, but somewhere at 11, the child is not feeling well. And so we have to rush to the doctor immediately now. On a bad day, you've had a good day, and before you get back home, they've stolen your phone. And you know your phone has become part of your life. Those are what we call in financial emergencies. They need attention. And the other financial emergency now we have found is a reality, is being separated from your income. And this has been brutalized in by COVID. Yesterday we have business, we are doing well, the president comes and reads a statement, and tomorrow we can't open. Or our employer can't open. Yesterday we were doing very well, and we went to sleep. The following morning when we come, the business is not there. It's actually either been taken away by the guys doing the road construction, or it's been consumed totally by fire. And we know life has to go on. Kenya Power doesn't ask whether you have money. They send you the bill. Nairobi Water sends the bill. The children want to eat. It's advisable to think about that component, and people ask how much. Money that can actually pay all your bills for at least 3 months. If you are separated from your income, you can pay all your bills for 3 months. And if you want it to be substantive, make it 6 months. And don't keep that money where you keep all your other money. A portion of this money needs to sit in a bank account. 40% needs to sit in a bank account with an ATM card. And somebody else needs to know the PIN number for that ATM. Because sometimes the emergency we have is me not speaking, and I'm the only one who knows the PIN. And if you've ever gotten somebody admitted in hospital without money, you know what I'm talking about. You can be there for 6 hours. If we had the money, we'd get the attention and attention quick. So as we are looking at financial prudence, as a family level, as a personal level, can we have a safety net to hold ourselves? That is what a contingency fund is all about. So I think having spoken about that, why don't we look at the people in the foundation years, our children, because these ones we love, and we love them very much. And we want to think about them when they are below 10. We call them the foundation years. And these people are money-innocent consumers. They are innocent, they are consumers, and God has granted them something that they have in good quantities. It is called pester power. They can pester you. When they are young and they're not talking, they cry. It's your business to find out why they are crying. And when they want something and you're not honoring it, they'll throw a tantrum. And this continues all the time. And I don't know what school they went to because they know psychology. They've actually found something that's called an Oedipus complex in psychology. The daughter will throw the tantrum to the father. And to the father, your daughter is a princess. You don't want to see their tears, so you oblige. And for the boy, throw the tantrum to the mother. And for the mother, this is your prince. Surely you cannot be seeing his tears. And it works for them. And when we are advertising, trust me, I'm a chartered marketer, we advertise to children because we know children have the power to open your wallets. And we sell 20% of all the things we sell the world over on that pester power. We need to know how to manage, and I'll mention one or two things of how we can manage one. Because these people have no money, they have no work, all they do is they play. Issues about money is the business of parents, and we love them dearly. Children below 10 are loved dearly, generally. They've not started bad manners, they've not been sent away from school. You know, when they come teenagers, you go to 4 schools. Now you're waiting for them to turn 18, appear ID, aenda na serikali. These ones, you care for them. And we do a lot of care. And in fact, if you're selling stuff for children, these ones are loved. I look for ways of how to sell for these ones. We have to hire caregivers for them. We have to think about good schools for them, for preschool and lower primary. And we have to indulge them in co-curricular activities. They have to learn how to play the piano, the dancing, the karate, saying poems. You know, they have to go for school trips, swimming. And we have to buy them toys. And in fact, if they demand for a PlayStation 5, we think of buying. And I don't know how much PlayStation 5 is costing now. Are there young parents here? Last time I checked, I was told it's something close to 70,000. And that's the demand. That's where we are. But we love them. If you love them, what do? They are wholly dependent on you. And that is why we must always think about income protection. How do I protect my income? Because these eyes are looking at me all the time. And so we learn lessons when we think about this age that we need to teach them practically. This is the age where they learn. But they don't learn in a normal classroom. Here they learn by seeing what you're doing, by getting involved. So if you ever thought of teaching them a culture of savings, this is the time for your piggy bank. Put the coins in the piggy bank and put them in prayers. I know there are women guild here in the room, and you know how you put your least coin in the bag with prayers. It is the same if you want these children to learn how to save. And this is a serious problem in our country. Our savings are so low because we consume without saving. The next generation has to learn how to save, and we have the responsibility to make sure that we teach them. Let's teach them good shopping habits so that they don't become victims of impulse buying. And how do we do that? When you go shopping, can you ask them to help you to prepare the shopping list? They are agile. They will go through the house. They can actually check, do we have enough soap? Do we have enough unga? And they're happy to do that exercise. Teach them the concept of shopping with a list, because it's going to be harder for them. In this environment where I told you we have actually studied consumer psychology, we are waiting for you in the supermarket so that we can open your wallet without your permission, and you're not going to refuse. So the only way we can be able to do is to help them to tame impulse buying by having a shopping list. let's desist from allowing them to get everything they ask. We have a new generation, and we're having a serious problem in finances in this country, like I'm going to say, because they have instant gratification. We have made the mistake, we've told them you can have whatever we want. But we did not tell them there's a process of getting what you want. And so impulse buying becomes a big problem. When they see hawkers, they want everything, and when they hold it, they will not give it away. And if you try to get it away, they will actually cause you some drama and some video, and you don't want a budogo-dogo, so you actually buy willingly. So let's deal with pester power, because the Bible says to us very clearly in Proverbs 22:6, train up your children in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. That's a powerful lesson, and this is where we need to apply that lesson by involving them. What is our money language at home? Do we show them our quarrels? Do we permanently keep saying to them, hakuna pesa, hakuna pesa? You're going to have a serious problem in days to come, something called a money script, and we're seeing it in our country many times. People who are perpetually told hakuna pesa, when they found it, they can do anything with the money to show pesa ilifika. And that becomes a big problem. We keep asking, why are they doing it? They want to show pesa ilifika. So let's see, what's the language we talk to them? Is money always available? Yes, even when it is available, is it for that purpose? So language is very, very important. And the second lesson is that as much as possible, let's care for them. Give them what they desire. And Paul was writing to his mentee, Timothy, and this is what Paul had to say. 1 Timothy 5:8. But those who do not care for their relatives, especially those in your own household, have denied the faith. Such people are worse than unbelievers. And some Bible says they are worse than the kafir. I think kafir is Arabic for non-believer. Now, can you imagine? We think we are people of faith. And Paul is saying, if we don't actually provide for the people in our household, we have denied our faith. We are not of the faith. What are we supposed to provide? Food, shelter, security, Medicare, housing, education. Minister, today I know I'm happy because I'm preaching to the choir. You know, choir is normally converted. Eh? So these people now, that one they understand is evidence all about it. So if you go to the next group, and this we are looking at our teenagers, because if they grow well, they will come into 10 years and all the way to 19. And this is a good season of discovery. This is where we get excited because we have actually learned money can do things. We now know money. When we were below 10, we didn't understand. But at this age, the biology is at work. We're facing massive personal changes. It could be the hormones, the estrogen, the progesterone, that we actually changing even in our body formation. Then that comes to bring a few issues here, and a lot of it has something to do with peer pressure. I want to catch up with my friends. I want to be where they are. And you know, because of that, we have a lot of demands for money. But at this age, they have no money, they have no work. They are graduating through many services. They've done primary, they graduate into secondary. For most communities, they've been boy child. Now you want them to become an adult, and they've got a process to go through. And having served at the mentorship fellowship, I understand the rite of passage. And I know we have a big struggle in the community. We have people who want to take it traditional, and those of us in church wanted to keep it in church. And even the girls, I know, our mothers, Women Guild, you have a whole process for the girl, and this is what we are going through with them. So this is the season for school fees. Yeah, here we scratch our heads because they are in upper primary, and they are likely to be in boarding private because we want a good score for them to go to Kenya High or to go to, is it Muranga High or is it Mangu? Then they go to high school, and then they go to college. And these are fairly expensive. But the good thing is, because they've grown well, they have a taste for expensive stuff. They love expensive food, and that's why fast food joints are growing by the day. Unfortunately, they are not doing good for our health, because it's all processed food. And the doctors will tell you, we started seeing obesity rates increase in our country because of that. They love expensive clothes, so if you're buying them clothes, now they actually want to go to Levi, where they can buy an original jean. Now they don't even want to ask for the simple toys, they will ask for the expensive toys. And in fact, if you look at it, if you're buying them yogurt at the supermarket, I don't know what's your brand of yogurt. If you come from my generation, we are okay with KCC and Delamere and Fresha. And this guy is, because my budget is about 100, but this guy surprised me. Because now they will go for bio and O, where the budget for one person now is 400. So mtu moja anakula watu waine. But that's where we are. That's the generation where they are. They're expensive. They've actually discovered movies, and they got interesting movies. Again, if you come from my generation, Cameo was not a church, it was a movie house. Nairobi Cinema. Now we have very interesting movies that people pay what, 700, 800 per show? Yeah, and I say people who actually went to movie for Cameo. For 5 shillings you watch movies the whole day? Times changer. Now these people want data because they're gonna stay on the phone, and you bought them an expensive phone, so they cannot work without data. Hanging out in the malls. This is the place where they want to be. They want to have trips to go and see their friends, sleepover. And now they've actually started realizing the other agenda is different from me. So they started getting interest in the others. But they are wholly dependent on us as parents. And that's why it is important for us to think about income protection. And more importantly, plan for things like college well before time. If you're talking about financial prudence, college is going to be expensive, so we want to plan before time. But this generation has to learn. And what are they going to learn? The correlation between work and pay. They have no idea. They have seen you put a card in the wall and you got money out. They don't know how the money came in. So they need to get involved. And I know I've heard people say, for the Indian people, for the Somali people, this is where they're beating us, because they're able to integrate their children into their business. Allow them to see what you do. Are you ashamed of what you do, really? And that's what generates the money that raises them. Allow them to come and see what you do. Come with them to your business. Come with them to your work. Assign them something that they can do. Let them understand. Let them understand savings. Introduce them to savings now. We want to get them into savings. You can actually now, they don't have an ID, but through you, they can have a bank account. You can actually buy them some shares for them to understand. You can open a unit trust for them. You can actually show them about budgeting. Don't give them money all they ask. Give them money once a week and let them plan for the week. If they run out of money, they can as well eat Indomie for the balance of the week. But they need to understand that budgeting works. Because if it doesn't work like here, we have serious issues coming ahead. And the other thing, donating to charity. This is the age when we are egocentric. It is me and the world revolves around me. It is me and the world owes me. So we actually need to be able to tell them there are others who also are maybe not well endowed as you, and we need to involve them. And I'm always happy with the brigade here. I'm always happy with youth, because a lot of these things tend to be taken care of. But let me say something that might be controversial. And I'll read this from the Bible so that if it's controversial, it's not going to be me. Psalms 127:3. Behold, children are heritage from the Lord. I think that's not controversial. Okay? They are the fruit of your womb, a reward. And that's why after I've been told, now this is a gift we've been given from God. We go to Proverbs 13:24. And what does it say? Whoever spares the rod hates his son. I'm going to say it's controversial because we've actually said, let's not even talk to them. Let's not even touch them. And you can actually see what's happening in our society. I'm sure this week you must have followed the debate of these two ladies who married each other. And they actually took dowry to the girl's mother, and she accepted from another girl. And this is where the society is resting now. And it is us in the church who need to help people to know the direction. So that is why let me finish reading. Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but who loves him is diligent to discipline him. So there must be discipline. If you don't correct them here, they will bend over, and we will not be able to change them past here. It will be too late. Because when they go into the next decade of life, in the 20s, they are not with you. They can actually do their thing their own way. When we come into the 20s, and again, if you come from my generation, you must be knowing Bonnie M. And I think there were nice songs like Bahama Mama. And there was a nice song, Young, Free, and Single. This is age, 20 to 29, young, free, and single. These are young adults. They've actually been in college, and then they will leave college, they'll come for a job search, they'll get their first job, they'll get into relationships and friendship, they have work, they have their own money, and they want to experiment with this freedom that they have gotten. Because now when you're in college life is good. Trust me. I told you I was in college across. I can still remember. I don't think things have changed a lot. College was about parties. And I'm sure they've changed the name. They change all the time. Sometimes it's Rev, sometimes it is Bash, but it's all a party, whatever you call it. And road trips, and movies, and shows, musical shows by Sauti Sol that actually cost 3,000 shillings, but we need to attend. The beauty of this, it is financed by somebody. Who is that somebody? It is you, the parent, whichever way. And let's be careful, if you don't finance it, somebody else will finance it with consequences. But we need to finance that. And when they're done with college and a good grade, they come for a job search. And when they do a job search, that's a trying period because jobs are not easily available, so we help them put together the CV, the appropriate wardrobe, money for travel, the data they need, whatever working tools that they require. They had all genes, and now they need to have a business suit, and I'm sure the parents were going to take care of that. And once they get a job, life starts changing. They are likely to ask to move out, and when they move out now, they start handling their own money issues, because now we will have issues of deposits, we'll have issues of paying rent, we'll have issues of furniture, they have to buy their own electronics, their TV, and they'll start having consumer bills. They've gone into the second phase. You can see how it happens. This is the second phase. They will have their water bill and their power bill and their gas bill, and they have to buy household items. And if they cannot be able to do all that, the parents, you're called. It's called financial outpatient. They were in your place, now they've gone away, but you have to help them wherever they are because you want them to go and settle. And a lot of times, this is when we realize we need personal development. Yes, I have a university degree, but it's not serving me well at the job place. They're making me a clerk. So the only way I can do is to study my CPA or whatever qualification so that I can actually be able to get a better paying job. Or maybe do my bachelor's degree or my master's degree. And as things happened around that personal development, we start progressing, maybe thinking about the first car. And we also have to think about relationships, because this is the appropriate time to think about relationships, investments. And I don't know whether the tradition is as in my day. When you went to the place to work and you are hired, the person who sits closest was the one who introduced you to the circle. And that's the reality of how things work. Now your friends will form a chama, and you will actually start thinking, you're talking the language of your parents. You can get into shares. I know a lot of them try forex trading. And we have student loans now to be able to pay. But this is a decade when the reality check comes through. Because when you love the girl, and I had somebody who's our home here, has actually gone through that process, somehow culture just comes from nowhere and comes into your face. So if you come to the minister and you say, we have become an item, now we want to live together, he's likely to ask, do you have the parents' blessings? And if you go to the parents' blessing, that's where culture comes through. And all of us who've been through that process, you know, the visits, the trips, the things that we need to do, the mbuzis, the cows, you know, the shukas that we are all going to be asked, the amount of honey that we are going to deliver. it is not 2 shillings, it's a lot of money. And unfortunately, society is sort of commercializing. Because from understanding of my culture, even if the man was poor, we did not deny him a girl. But I think now we're raising it too high. And that becomes the first place where the young people realize they have to fall back to the parents. And the good thing is, in most cultures, this is the business of the parent, not the young people. The dowry system is not for young people. That's for the parents. And when they are done with that, they've got this nice thing they want to do called a wedding. And for the first time in your life, you have something that you want to do, you cannot raise money alone. So you call a committee, you form a WhatsApp group, and the balance that we can't raise, the parents are going to raise that. And that becomes a real heavy burden for parents that we need to look at. And if that goes on well and God grants us life, the first child arrives. And when the first child arrives, what do? Now you start zero again. You start coming up. The things we talked about before, the bills that you have to pay. Now you're not a financial patient. Now you're likely to be on your own. And maybe for parents here, financial prudence requires planning ahead of time. If God grants us a daughter, grants us a son, and we wish them well, we see these things are going to come, and so we can prepare for that. Because in Proverbs 21:5, we are well advised, the plans of the diligent lead to abundance. So we need to have plans. But everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. So if you don't plan, we're going to have a lot of challenges, and that becomes a problem. But let me say one of the big challenges when we come to this age, without proper caution, we have found ourselves with some institution called CRB. And I think a lot of us understand the word Fuliza. That makes it even difficult for us to make contributions in church now. Okay? Now because we did not know, and the traps were laid, and you don't need any approvals to get into this, we find ourselves with a lot of mobile debts. And the people lending are interesting. Some of them are saying, no problem, we just give it to you. Just take it. All you do, give us your phone book. And the day you don't pay, we'll threaten, we'll tell everybody that you're not paying. And there's a lot of people who have a lot of issues here. They are registered in CRB. As a nation, we need to be concerned. We have 14 million people on CRB in this nation. I don't know how many we are, but that's a big proportion of the nation. And for young people, these are serious consequences. With a CRB listing, not only can't you get debt from formal institutions, you cannot get a decent job with the bigger organizations. You cannot be hired by the government. But I've seen from my work of debt counseling, a lot of people don't even know the CRB when they are borrowing. It is only when you are reported. This is a registry. It's a registry of all the people with debt who are not paying. There was a joke the other day on social media. Somebody said, 14 million, we can make a party and elect a president. That's true. But the only problem is nobody is proud to be on that list. In fact, nobody owns up until they are smoked out. 14 million as they are. So we actually need to be able to help people to learn. And that's why I say they need to learn earlier. Because the Shyrocks, and this is well captured in our Bible. You know, in Proverbs 22:7, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender. That's how people have been enslaved. And there's that many people who have been enslaved here, and some have broken-hearted. And we've seen a lot of young people just giving up their life, just throwing out their life, because they've been caught in this debt, and they actually don't see their way out. Part of it is fueled by just consumption, because there's a lot of demand to consume. You know the interesting story of the young man who actually takes the girlfriend to Kempinski because they want to put it on Instagram and everybody to see and like? And you can actually imagine what the cost is. But we need to be there. There's a fear of missing out for this generation. If my friends are doing it, they are going to the coast. How do I get left out? I would rather borrow and get there. So this becomes a very, very big concern. But God is gracious. We'll go through this one. It is not going to bog us down. And as time goes on, we'll go to the 30s. And I know now we are moving. And if you manage to get through into the 30s, and God will give us a chance to get there, this is what we call the expansion decade in life. You are expanding here. How are we expanding? Career-wise. If you joined in as a clerk, wherever, now you're coming up. At the personal life, you're expanding. You're likely to settle down and have a family. So you have the work, you have the money, you have the responsibilities. And so at this stage, we find a lot of people have a growing family. They settled in their own house. Maybe they have a first child or a second child or a third child. Now the demands start expanding. We need to have a bigger house where we can all fit. Remember, initially it was a studio, a bed-sitter. Then when we became two, we could actually stay in a one bedroom. When the child comes and we need a minder, now we need 2 bedrooms and we move on. And so we need more items of furniture. We need to buy a lot of household things. Maybe we need a car, a family car. We now start getting into parties. We have to celebrate the birthday and the baby shower and all that. And I hope you can see the way the money is having a lot of things to do. And we have to do holidays. But because we need to have more money, we start looking for career growth. So we are likely to change from the first job into the second job. This is the decade when we think about home ownership. We realize that the landlord is not always our friend, so we want to get into that. So we have a lot of demand, and if you look at it at this stage, largely our demands outstrip the income that we have. And that's why we make radical decisions. The radical decision can be we change from our career into another career. We change residence. If you look at the people looking for the green card, this is the age where they are. So we want to change from one place to the other. We might change career. We might change town. We need to look at income protection and look for other income streams. The only challenge is we are two mostly, but we've always never agreed on the money. Remember the personal side of it. We have never sat down to agree. And sometimes we end up with a family therapist who actually comes in to help us. And so this is where now we learn from the wisdom of Solomon. Ecclesiastes 4:19-12. And it's actually very clear that two are better than one. And we need to be able to work together, because if we work together, we can actually be able to move to a better place. We can actually be able to succeed. So that becomes very, very important for us. So that now when we get into the 40s, we have a better place, we are more established, because when you come into the 40s, trust me, this is a place where we have heavy burdens to lift. We have consolidated, we established in our careers, we established in community, we're holding office here. We have bigger budgets because the children are in high school or they're in college. And that's why we said we need to plan it earlier. If we don't have a home, here we actually want to have a home. And you know, we sort of now want to have other income streams. So we are looking at other business. And in this country, unfortunately, this is the age of corruption. Most of the people caught up in corruption are here, because they have found that they want to catch up and time has moved out. There's a lot of social responsibilities. For the first time in your life, you're taking care of your children and you're likely to be taking care of your aging parents. So that becomes part of the things that we do, or you're taking care of your siblings. And that's why people in the 40s sometimes suffer midlife crisis. When you look at your peers, they seem to be doing better than you. And you actually make decisions that sometimes you want to fast track. You want to get to where you want to go, but sometimes it is not easy. So it gets very, very difficult. And so we say for this age, if you've never thought about planning, this becomes very, very critical. Thinking about planning so that you can have a plan for your cash flow. What do I spend? What do I invest? And what do I save? You're looking at ensuring that, yes, I need money for this purpose and for this purpose. Because when you're in 40s, your children are going to college, but they've not come to the other stages. And we need to plan for that. So sort of we need to create order out of chaos. And so we need to have a deliberate process. And I've seen in my practice, these are the people now who are happy to come, but sometimes they come a bit too late for some things, so you're not able to help them a lot. So there's a desire here to have things that are coordinated, because from here we are going to go into the 50s. And if God grants us life, we come to the 50s, pre-employment. If you're an employee, your employer has been sending you your payslip all the time with your age indicated. They want to remind you, when you come here, it is time to move on. So this becomes the pre-retirement. And surprisingly, this becomes the place of the empty nest. The children went to boarding school, they went to the hostel, they've gone out. So you are likely to be a couple who have always lived together and you've had children and they're gone. It could be somebody who remained single parent. It could be somebody who has been widowed, or could be somebody who is divorced. And so this becomes that time when we sort of reuniting again. And that's why planning would have been important so that we don't find ourselves with the challenges out there. So with the children out in high school, we are focusing on our retirement that is coming. We might have aging parents to take care of. Age is showing. Whichever way you try, age will show up. Like me, you will have specks of white hair somewhere. You try anti-aging cream, and they will actually not take away all the wrinkles. So it is good to accept age has come, and when you go to a meeting, you tend to be given the seat at the front. Stop looking for the seats at the back. Sit at the front and offer the counsel. Because now, if you think about it, this is where Isaiah was talking to us in Isaiah 40:31. That those who keep waiting for the Lord, he will renew their strength. Because we are running out of strength, and we actually get strengthened so that we can soar like eagles on wings, so that we can run. Because we have heavy burdens to pay. Children in high school, children in college, we're finishing home ownership, we are looking for a new direction. Retirement is actually demanding for attention. So this becomes that place that we go. And I know we are running out of time, but I know we have the 60s. We may not be able to look at the 60s. That's the golden time when we are actually on a new road again. We have actually finalized what we were doing, and we've gone into other things. And we actually find we are on a new road again because when we get into the 60s, it's a travel time for some reason. Going to see the children. Ladies, here, you're expert. You know your child is married in Mombasa, you go, I don't know for how long, 3 months, to see the one who is named after you. And then after you are done with that, the other one was married in Kampala, and while you're in Kampala, the one in Canada is calling you, and mwaka umeenda. Where is mzee? Hey, wazee, tujipange mapema, eh? Because this season is coming, eh? And we'll actually find ourselves there while we are traveling, or when we become farmers without choice, because sometimes wazee, we are left with a cow. So we are forced to become farmers even if that was not our choice. But again, you are the citadels of wisdom here. You understand a lot of things. When we have issues, we come to you for counsel. We actually want you to come and take us to our cultural events. And this is what Job had to say for you at that age. Wisdom belongs to the aged and understanding to the old. Here you are very wise. Don't let us fall in the mistakes you had fallen in your age. Because if you do that, lucky enough, you will come through into the 70s. You will just be slowing down, but you'll be going on. When we get here, let's remember, we created wealth. We managed wealth. We need now to distribute it. Let's agree we are going. And we're going to a better place. Let us do distribution because financial prudence requires that we look for an orderly way for our things to be managed by others when we are not there. If you don't do that, we leave it to the court. And the court does not understand what we intended. And a lot of resources are getting wasted out there, and our grandchildren will suffer. Remember, what was the requirement? That we leave an inheritance for our children's children. Getting a proper management system can actually be able to get us there. So I know it's a big lesson. There are many things we can learn. We cannot be able to finish it here. We said you are a steward. As a steward, always remember, every given time, you have 7 cashiers who you have to distribute your money on. And never forget cashier number 1 is God. Always invest in the kingdom of God. Your tithes, your offerings, your alms, supporting your parents, and supporting those who are in need. And I think that is very, very clearly put. I know you have to pay taxes. I don't think we have a lot of option in paying taxes. You have to pay for your lifestyle. You have to pay for those who are close to you. You have to pay to your community. And you must always care for yourself, develop yourself, and always remember there is a tomorrow. So I think I want to end here by saying, when you look at all this, sometimes we ask, so what happens to us? And I want to say in my conclusion, there's a very clear lesson, and Christ taught this lesson. Recorded very well in Matthew 6:24. No one can serve 2 masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. I think we need that clarity in the morning in terms of financial prudence. And so I would urge that we learn from King David, and we actually just say to God, give us enough so that we do not do things that are not right. And this is very well written in Proverbs 30:8-10. It says, keep falsehoods and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you. So we do not want to have too much to disown our God. So I want to say to you, we are children of the Maker who owns everything. We're just but stewards, and we have the right way to do the things. And now I know God, in his own wisdom, will help us so that we can be able to achieve that which he has set us to do on the face of the earth. I want to say thank you very much. I say this in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.